What is the purpose of communication? The objective of communication is to convey what we want to say, to convey our feelings, our emotions to another person, right? Now, based on the coverage of a communication, the types of communication can be broken down into 5 different categories. What are those? First and foremost, which constantly we do, is intrapersonal communication, not intrapersonal communication, which is whatever we say to ourselves, whatever feelings we have by looking at a person, by hearing to a music, by seeing a flower, whatever good feeling or bad feeling that we have, we keep on having every single moment. So all of us keep on communicating intrapersonally every single moment. That's intrapersonal, which is entirely non-verbal communication, of course, because there are no words spoken by us. It just happens mentally, internally, soulfully. Second is interpersonal, when one person speaks to another. It's a one-on-one conversation, which is called interpersonal. It's basically just to communicate to that particular person what we feel or listen to him or her. That's interpersonal communication, right? The third one is a small group communication where 3 or more people, maybe 4 or 5 at the most, which is a small group, the people interact amongst each other. It's not one-on-one, it's many on one. I mean, each one interacts with the other persons. There is an exchange of information, there is an exchange of ideas, opinions, views, and all. So that's in a small group of conversation or communication. The fourth one is public speaking, which is a kind of a speech or a kind of a presentation, any kind of presentation, which is made to a large gathering, to maybe tens or 50s or hundreds of people together. So that's a mass communication, which is basically addressed to a large crowd through a public speaking. And the final one is what we normally refer to as a mass communication, which is essentially through the electronic media or the print media, that is in the form of some news items which are printed on the newspapers or which are telecast on the televisions or on radio, for example, All India Radio. So that's mass communication where millions of people are approached or communicated that particular message or that particular information or news at one single point of time. So that's mass communication. So as you can see, out of these 5 communications, the first 4, intrapersonal, which is talking to ourselves, interpersonal, talking to one, then your small group of conversation where 3 or 4 or 5 people are talking to each other together, and public speaking. All 4 has got an element and an important element of non-verbal communication. Why? Because, of course, as I explained to you, intrapersonal is entirely without any words. I mean, it's more like a feeling, talking to yourself. Even one-on-one or one-on-many, like, small group conversations also, we do use words, we do use sentences. But a lot of things are spoken or messages communicated by us through our body language, through how we look at the person, at other people, how we gesture, how we smile, how we, face him, how our body posture communicates to that person, whether we are positive to them or negative about them. And even for presentation or even for public speaking also, we have to speak words, obviously, we have to communicate through verbal communications. But then there's a big element of non-verbal communication where the way we modulate our voice, the way we modulate our pitch, the volume, the way we gesture with our hands, emphasize certain points or, okay with certain things. So similar kind of, different kinds of hand gestures that we use, or the facial expressions. Sometimes we raise our eyebrows, sometimes we squint our eyes, sometimes we smile. So all these are non-verbal communication which helps us in communicating our message very strongly and powerfully to the crowd at large. But the only exception is mass communication, which is through a print media or an electronic media like a radio or a television, where all that people go through are printed words or sentences, or they listen to the speaker. So this is mass communication where the non-verbal communication does not play much of an element, much of a factor or a role. Rather, the verbal communication plays a very important role. So that's why mass communication approaches many, but then the impact is much, much smaller or much, much less as compared to the first four types of communications, where the non-verbal communication takes the front seat to communicate exactly how we feel and what we want to communicate. If you want to learn more about it, more about types of communications and more about non-verbal communication as a subject in general, grab a copy of my book, Speak Without Words, Your Journey to the Mastery of Non-Verbal Communication. That's going to be launched tomorrow. That's Sunday, 21st of January on Amazon platform. So I would request you to grab a copy of that book where you can have, my experiences shared with you, my experience of interacting with people, reading the people and observing the people's gestures and how to express yourself. Of course, with lots of researches which are put into that. So grab a copy of that book, Speak Without Words, which is going to be launched tomorrow, Sunday, the 21st of January. Looking forward to interacting with you shortly.